All right, welcome back to another episode of the MHP Cashflow Podcast. Today we got Mr. Eden Markowitz with us. He is the cost seg expert, and I'm excited to interview him today. Eden, what's up?
What's going on, man? Happy to be here. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. So break it down from the start. What exactly is a cost seg, and why should mobile home park investors know about it?
It's a big question right there. That's like 20 minutes. All right, so we'll start from the basics. Before even cost seg, we'll talk about basics of depreciation. I'm going to try to make it not too lengthy, but just a little background before cost seg. So any investment real estate that you own, you get tax benefits for, right? We always hear, real estate is great for, tax strategy and saving money on taxes. How does that all work, right? So the IRS essentially gives us tax benefits for owning real estate, and we call that depreciation, right? So as you buy a property, you hold it for a bunch of years. Hopefully the value is going up, right? It's appreciating, but uh, we know we're going to have to make repairs. Nothing lasts forever. So the IRS says, hey, you get this thing called depreciation, which means, if you're going to need to, pave a road or replace a light post or anything maintenance capex related to any type of property, it's going to cost money. So we give you this thing called depreciation every year to take on your tax return to offset some income that you have. So that's like the starting point is you have this thing called depreciation. So how does that work? That works as follows. If you have commercial real estate, so pretty much anywhere where people don't sleep, except for a hotel and an Airbnb, those depreciate over 39 years, right? So
For
you have
commercial,
commercial real estate, yeah, like a
39.
warehouse or office building or that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and then Airbnb and hotels also fall under commercial. So those will depreciate over 39 years. So assume you buy a property for $10 million, take off the value of the raw land, which doesn't depreciate, usually between 15, 30%, something depends. Is it in the
right.
city? Is it out in the boondocks? So you got to take off your land value, which is a whole other topic of how you come up with that. But you take off your land value, and then you just take that over 39 years, the rest of it. So that's just what we call straight line depreciation.
Right.
Nothing fancy, but you buy any type of property, your CPA puts on your tax return, and you get those tax benefits, yearly. So 39 years for commercial, and then residential and mobile home park would fall under residential. That would depreciate over 27 and a half years. So
Hmm.
how they
I
came
didn't
up
know
with
it.
that, yeah.
I didn't know it qualified for residential. I thought it was commercial.
Mobile home parks,
For
yeah.
yeah.
So an RV park would be if it's shorter stays, if you have like a transient, resort type of RV park,
Right.
those could be 39 year. Long-term RV parks
Gotcha.
operate the same. So those are 27 and a half years.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, definitely, you get the tax benefits quicker. 27
Yeah.
and a half versus 39. So that's kind of what we call straight line depreciation. So that how that works is, just divide your purchase price less the land by 27 and a half or 39, and that's what you'll get every year, a depreciation. So that's like
Right.
basics before we get into any cost seg or bonus depreciation or anything fancy. You own real estate, you are entitled to those tax deductions or what we call paper losses every year, as the
Yeah.
property depreciates, in the condition. Um,
Yeah.
so that's the basics. What cost segregation essentially is trying to do is to accelerate that. So stage one of acceleration is just basic cost segregation to break down all the components of the property. So what we're
The
essentially
structure.
doing, yeah. So what we're trying to do is the example that's really easy to remember and understand is you have any type of building or property. Imagine it was built out of Lego, right? And you came in and took a hammer and smashed the thing into a billion pieces, right? Now it's
Yeah.
cleanup time. You got to put it away. So in order to put it away, according to the way the IRS tells us to put it away, you got to put it into different buckets, right? So there's essentially the structural component, right? Let's use a building as an example, an office building. You have a foundation, you have plumbing, you have electrical, you have the studs, you have the roof. The the components that the IRS deemed to be structural, those cannot be accelerated. So that's 39 and 27 and a half years, right?
Right.
What we're looking to do is find all the other components that the IRS says have a shorter shelf life, right? They're not going to last 27 and a
Mm-hmm.
half or 39 years. Like, in this room, I got some furniture here, I got carpet,
Yeah.
there's light fixtures above my head that you can't see. Those things are going to break and wear and tear much faster, so you can depreciate them a lot quicker than 39 years the building that I'm sitting in right now. So
Right.
interior items would be personal property, right? Those are 5-year components. So the carpet in this room is 5 years, the light fixtures, the furniture, if you own the
Mm.
furniture, shelving, appliances, most of the interior items, window shades that are non-structural will depreciate over 5 years. So imagine you own this office building. Instead of waiting 39 years to get, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of carpet, you get that over 5 years instead of waiting 39 years for it, right? So that's
Right.
interior non-structural. The second component, which could be really big, especially on mobile home parks, like we'll talk about in a minute, is any
Yeah.
land improvements. So land improvements would be like concrete, even the markers on the parking spaces, the bollards, the concrete that prevents you from
Yeah.
going further,
Benches, swing
landscaping,
sets.
benches, yeah, all that kind of stuff. Anything that was an improvement to the land would be 15 years. So instead of waiting 39 or 27 and a
Okay.
half, you'll get that all over 15. So essentially, what we're doing is trying to break down and find every inch of the property that can be accelerated so you don't have to wait all that time to get those tax benefits.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And so I've heard of the cost segregation, the 5 year and the 15 year. Can you explain the difference between the two?
Yeah, so
Like
uh
like in terms of bonus depreciation.
hmm yeah, so that was stage two. Stage one is like regular depreciation, then comes cost segregation, the 5 and the 15. Now we have 100% bonus depreciation as this is getting recorded. We're in end of July here, and we have the big beautiful bill that was passed a few weeks ago. So what that
I
does is
heard.
take us back in time to 2018 when things were great
Yeah.
with tax benefits. So what that does essentially is anything with 15 years or less shelf life can be taken all in the first year. That's what 100%
Oh.
bonus means. All that stuff, the 5 and the 15 year, all of that in the first year, which is honestly amazing. It's a
Yeah.
game changer. It
Yeah.
gets you a lot more, a lot quicker. So it can be somewhere between 10 and 90% of what you paid for the property, depending on different property types and how much building component there is. It can
Yeah.
accelerate that a lot.
So for an investor who's planning on doing a 5 to 7 year hold, what would be the best strategy as far as maximizing the depreciation over 5 to 7 years?
Yeah, so we usually say like the minimum, to do a cost seg and to take a lot of that in the first year would be at least 3 years, maybe even 5 years is the sweet spot. So
Okay.
if it's a 5 to 7 year hold, I mean, cost segregation totally makes sense. Essentially you're taking as much as you can right now, for your investors, and you're deferring that tax liability. We'll talk about, maybe a
Right.
little bit later about strategies on how to avoid paying that back, if you do sell the property in 5 or 7 years.
Right.
But what,
1031.
yeah, 1031 or another cost seg. So you can buy a bigger property, do another cost seg to offset
Hmm.
the recapture on property number one. So
I did not know that. That's
yeah, you can
awesome.
do that. Yeah, we call that 1031 light. So if 1031 doesn't work out, then that's kind of your alternative.
Yeah.
So, you're in a sweet spot at 5 to 7 years. You're paying a few $1,000s for a cost seg study, and you could
Yeah.
be saving yourself, hundreds, millions of dollars in taxes. A lot of my clients are saving millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Just know that you got to plan accordingly because this is tax deferment. It's not free money, but
Yeah.
the easiest way to put it is Imagine you had a tax liability of $500,000. Um, you don't pay it, but you have to pay it back in 5 or 7 years. You just got a $500,000 loan, interest free from the IRS for 5 or 7 years. So I would
Yeah,
I would
that's
assume
true.
if I called you up right now and said, "Hey Garrett, you want to borrow 500,000 for the next 5 years interest free?" You'd say, "Where do I sign?" Right? So
Yeah, exactly.
just know that, it's going to be, you have to strategize on ways to, defer that again, like you said, the 1031 or another cost
Yeah.
seg, or don't sell the property. Um,
Yeah.
but
So
Mhm.
what if you don't sell the property but you get to the end of the 5-year depreciation schedule?
Mhm.
What happens after that?
Yeah, so if you're taking all of your 5 and your 15 in year one, you've exhausted a nice amount, right? So it depends on the
Right.
property type. Let's just say it added up to 50% of what you paid. So you bought a property for 10 million bucks. You took 5 million and you needed it, right? You needed a $5 million deduction. You sold some other properties or sold a business or whatnot. You took
Yeah.
a $5 million, accelerated depreciation in year one. That means you're left with 3 million. We said we're taking off 20% for land. So you have 3 million left over the next 26 years, right? So you still
Okay.
have left. You just, you know, instead of, if I offered you, 5 cookies today and you were starving, or 1 cookie a day for the next 5 days, right? If you're really
Yeah.
hungry and you need it to survive, then you're going to eat all 5 cookies today. You may not have more tomorrow, but you got to figure out what you're going to eat tomorrow. So
Right.
I guess the strategy with a lot of my clients is, rinse and repeat, right? You're buying a couple
Yeah.
deals a year. I had a conversation today with someone who said, "Hey, I'm going to send you like 3 or 4 properties that I'm looking at. I need to figure out how much I need to buy before the end of the year. This is how much I made. This is what I'm looking at buying.
Yeah.
Help me figure out what I need to buy to not pay taxes this year." And,
That's a
you got
great
to be
problem to
smart about
have.
it. It's a good problem. Yeah, it's for sure a
Yeah.
good problem. I mean, I have one, I mean, I have a lot of clients in this situation, but one is like really stands out is they buy like one property a year that's, between 15 and $30 million. That's the strategy, and
Wow.
they have a side business that makes a lot of money, and they're just really looking. They're not huge like real estate owners, but they know the
Yeah.
tax code, they have a good tax advisor, and they know that I need to buy one of these a year to avoid paying, $2-3 million to the IRS every year, and it can
Yeah.
work.
Oh yeah. So do people, let's say for $1 million, they buy the property for 1 million, or let's say their, depreciable amount is $1 million. If they were going to do it over 5 years, do most of your clients, or what you see in the industry, do they do $200,000 a year in depreciation on that
Mhm.
income that property produces for the next 5 years, or how have you seen it?
I mean, the ones that need it take all of it in year one. So instead of waiting 5 years, they'll just take 100% bonus. They won't wait the 5 years, right? So your 5 and your
Gotcha.
15, you can take that all in the first year, or you could take it over 5 and 15. It just depends on how much you need, right? What is your tax liability now? And you can argue with this, and some CPAs and some, real estate investors are conservative and kind of want to, split it out and save. But, to me, time value of money, right? If you have a tax
Yeah.
liability right now and you could avoid paying the taxes now, use that money to invest in another deal, or I don't know, buy your dream house. As long as, again,
Yeah.
you got to be smart about it. You got to be smart. You can't just like, oh, let's just cost seg everything and have no game plan next year, year after. It's all got to be calculated. But, the value of the dollar, who knows what it'll be in a year from now, in 6 months from now, tomorrow. We live in
Yeah.
pretty crazy times. And if you owe the IRS money now and you have ways to not pay it, I say don't pay it.
Yeah. So
So
basically, what you're saying is strike while the iron's hot.
that's right. If it's there
And
and you need it, take it.
yeah, that's a great strategy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So with the cost segregations, does it matter if it's newer homes or older homes, or anything with MH that applies to that?
Yeah. So in general, with any property type, it's you can do a cost seg 500 times. If a property would sell every year for the next 50 years, every owner that buys it can do a new cost seg, right? The condition
Gotcha.
of any type of property does make a difference, though. It's, the value, if you have a brand new mobile home that you bought for $150,000, right, versus an old 1970 single wide, obviously the value is going to be different, right? So what we're
Yeah.
trying to do when we do a cost segregation study on any type of real estate, we need to pretty much look at the total purchase price and then put a value on every item in the grand scheme of things, right? So if this carpet was brand new versus it was 20 years old, I bought this building, this year, the carpet could be really old or it could be really new. So that
Right.
value that we place on the cost seg study on the carpet is going to depend on the condition of it, right? But you're going to total up the value of all the components of this property is going to be, $10 million at the end of the day. The question is, where does it all get allocated? How much is each piece worth?
Right. Okay. I like that. And
Yeah.
what is the best timeline for people to get cost segs? Would you say closer to the end of the year, or where do you see the most?
Do it now, right now. Um, yeah. So, uh, ideally, you do it literally the day after you close. I mean, I did two
Oh, really?
studies today on RV parks, and they haven't even closed yet. So I have clients that want to do them. They'll give it to me a month before the close because they want to allocate on the closing statement. Per their attorney, they need allocations on the closing statement. So
Right.
there are times where we do it even before the property's closed, like fully finish the reports. But ideal situation for me, for everyone, is really, reach out when you're in the due diligence period. So you kind of have a projection of what the number is going to look like. And as
Right.
soon as you close on it, or even uh, what I do with some of my clients is we have the cost of the cost segregation on the closing statement and the title company. So it's part of your
Oh,
acquisition costs, and the title company will actually send our company the fees up front. And then once we get that the day after the close, we start doing it and we have the report back within, 2 to 6 weeks after that, depending on what time of year and where the property is located, et cetera. But
yeah.
ideally, unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to do like one, 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 one. So, someone who's buying 10 properties a year will just like at the end of the year or even in February of next year, we'll say, here's all the parks that we bought. We need 10 cost sticks and we'll do it. But first of all, it usually puts a little bit more pressure with scheduling all of them close to tax season,
Oh,
just
for sure.
logistically, all that. Um, and the important thing to keep in mind is that things change at a property, right? You can have a storm, God forbid, or you put in new roads or new mailboxes or whatever it is at a property. We really want to see it the way it was when you acquired it, because that's the cost seg is capturing your purchase price, not what the property looks
Right.
like a year or 2 or 3 years later. So ideally, literally immediately after you close on the property, it should get done. You know, Not
Yeah.
everyone is as organized and gets it done right away, and some just want to just deal with it as a package, at one shot.
Yeah.
But
That's a
I guess,
great strategy.
yeah, to answer the question, do it as soon as possible. Yeah,
ASAP.
yep,
So does it matter if you have a loan on the property or not, or if it's a seller finance deal? Does that have anything to do with the cost seg?
yeah. So you can buy a property with cash. You can put zero down. It has no bearing on anything. So it's all based on what you paid for the property, not what it appraised for. You can get an appraisal, which you probably do if you get a bank financing, but that
Right.
has no bearing on anything for the cost seg. So the beauty of, especially I see this in a lot in mobile home parks, is there's a lot of seller financing, owner financing going on with very low down payments, which is nice. You're buying it off of a, mom and pop owner. They're willing to finance it. You could
Yeah.
literally put $0 down on $1 million park and have a $700,000 tax deduction, and you're $0 out of pocket, which is like
See,
amazing. You know, so
that's amazing.
yeah, it
The
has no
tax
bearing
code.
on it. Yep.
That is incredible. So, wow. I love that. So, when it comes to depreciation planning, what do you recommend to your clients? What do you think is the best strategy overall?
Yeah, so I mean, it's important to have a good CPA or tax planner if possible. Not always possible
Yeah.
depending on if you're just starting out or whatnot, but it's when we think of taxes, it's always kind of annoying, right? This is not like
Yeah.
the sexy, fun part of real estate. It's kind of the annoying thing that no one really wants to deal with, and like I sometimes have to like I don't mind bothering people, to get a cost seg done because I know that they need it and they're going to get it done and it's good for their own benefit, right? We're not
Yeah.
like trying to sell you a new product that is not necessary, for operation of your property. This is something that's really going to help you. So
Yeah.
it's important to do. A lot of people, if like I said before, if it's not built into their process of, management, sometimes they'll delay it. But I think understanding, what your tax liability is, right? Which you don't always know until, unfortunately it's the end of the year, but projecting, hey, how much money am I going to make this year from my real estate, from other businesses that I might have, right? To really kind of
Yeah.
budget all of that and realize, like I was telling you before, how much real estate do I need? How many cost segs? I have, a couple clients that are big wholesalers, but they also keep a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of they keep parks themselves, right? So they're always, they're sending me 3 or 4 a year to do, cost seg proposals on. And they always tell me, hey, we'll tell you at the end of the year which studies we need done, right? So there are times where
Yeah.
you don't need to do 4 cost segs because 2 parks will wipe out your whole tax liability, right? So sometimes they'll wait to the end of the year and say, hey, we sent over to our CPA, our tax planner, the 4 estimates you sent us on the 4 parks we bought this year. We need to do 2 in order to wipe out our tax liability. But I
Yeah.
think in general, it's important to, plan ahead, realize what, kind of what your cash flow is going to be for the year. And
Yeah.
if you're doing other things, right? If you're a real estate professional and you have a spouse that has a salary or a W-2 or a 1099 or a side
Yeah.
business, or if you're making money, the beauty is we didn't really touch on it, but if you have this real estate professional status, right, you can offset
Right.
any income that you and your spouse make. So calculating all that and seeing, hey, this is what we're looking like we're going to make this year. Do we need to try to get aggressive and make some more offers on some properties, to help with
Yeah.
the tax liability or not? I mean, sometimes you'll have a great year and you need to buy 5 properties, and
Yeah.
sometimes you won't need to buy any. All right. So
Yeah.
it's
So
really just
basically a lot of high income earners offset their taxes with cost segs that are
yep,
in separate industries, not even just the MH industry.
yep.
So, what about for guys like me who are MHP operators? What would you say is the best cost seg strategy or game plan if we're just going off of park income? Let's say no active income on a side business or anything like that, just park income. What would you say is the best route for that?
I mean, if you're raising capital and you have LPs investing in the deal, I think the conversation has to be had with them on, what kind of depreciation they need, right? So a lot of people are investing in deals because they want that K1 to reflect 100% bonus and maximize, their tax benefits. So if
Yeah.
you're raising capital, you have investors, I mean, it's almost always going to make sense to do a cost seg study because those investors want those losses, right? They may
Yeah.
have other
And
investments. Yeah.
if you own the property, let's say 50-50 with another investor, essentially easy math would be they would get half of whatever the depreciation schedule is for the first 5 years.
Mhm.
So if it's $1 million, it would be half of that,
Right.
basically.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, you could
And so
shift
you
that
can,
around. It's
so
it's possible.
if it's two individuals, you can both separately take a depreciation off of the same property.
Correct. Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
you can have 50 people, so everyone gets their share, right?
Yeah.
And then it's up to you to decide. Let's just say me and you are 50-50 partners on a park, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, you made a boatload of money this year and I didn't, and I don't need it, right? You can take your 100% bonus on your 50%, and I can take zero this year, right? I can take it next
Wow.
year, right? Next year, let's say you had a bad year and I had a good year. I'm going to take my 50 next year and you're going to take zero. So it flows
See,
down to the
that's
K1 and then into your
that's
personal
so
tax return.
valuable for high income earners. I mean, you can really dramatically lower your taxes by doing a cost seg, and a lot of high income earners don't even know that. Like they think it's investing in real estate. It's really not investing in real estate. It's, if you're doing it for a tax strategy, that's what it is.
Yeah, the
It's a
important thing
good
to know is
good place
that
to store cash.
they have to be, if they're like full-time doctor, lawyer, and their spouse is also, they're only going to be able to use the losses from a cost seg to offset passive income, right? So it can't go against their
Gotcha.
W-2 or whatnot.
They're
So it
active.
exactly, it can only go
Okay.
against passive, not active. But there's tons of people investing in deals that have other passive income, or
Yeah.
that are real estate professionals that just don't want to operate. They want to invest in deals, and not be an operator.
Yeah. Just passive investors.
Exactly.
Okay. So basically, I mean, looking at it as like, comparing it to stocks, it's not you know, it's not going to go up 12% per year, but you can really dramatically put a big chunk out of your taxes,
Hmm.
in the first year.
Yep.
And
You can't
on the
you can't
and on the
depreciate you
passive
can't
money,
depreciate your stocks. That's for sure.
yeah, no, you can't depreciate the stocks. And on the passive money, you're not getting taxed on it because you're doing a cost seg. So it's basically essentially free cash flow for the
Hmm.
next 5 years
Exactly.
or however long.
Yeah,
So
could be
yeah, I
even
mean
longer.
that's super valuable because a lot of people just think of, putting money into the 401k or the Roth or, and just letting it grow. But with real estate and investing passively into it, I mean, you can generate quite a bit of cash flow and have zero tax liability,
Hmm.
so it's a huge benefit. So I love that. That's awesome. So for real estate investors out there, what would you say is important to know when it comes to cost segs? Like how much do they cost usually?
So it depends on the property. They're usually, somewhere in the, $4,000 to $6,000 range, depending on, single family could be a little bit less, and then like huge like shopping centers or whatever will be a little bit more. But assume
Yeah.
in that range, 4,000 to 6,000 for a property. I think what's important to keep in mind is when
Yeah.
possible, the real estate professional status can be a gold mine, right? And I've
Yeah.
met a lot of people that are not tapping into it. That could be. I met a
So I don't
guy.
know if
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
I don't know if you know this, but what is the qualifications for the real estate professional status?
Yeah, so it's 750 hours a year, and 51% of your time. And this is a discussion definitely not to have with me, to have with your CPA or tax planner, right? I'm not your
Of
CPA, I'm
course.
not your tax planner, and it's
Nope.
ultimately going to be them filing your tax returns, so they got to be comfortable with it. But that's
Yeah.
something that I've seen people were not aware of or didn't know how to really tap into that. Just a small example, I met a guy in Dallas who owns quite a bit of multifamily and office buildings. Him and his wife were like full time in the tech business. They happened to be investing in real estate. A friend got them into it years ago and whatnot, but they really were not. They didn't have a good CPA, good tax planner, and they weren't tapping into any of the depreciation really. Maybe to offset some
Mm,
of the cash flow, but they were paying like $1 million to the IRS every year, from their business. And
wow.
I was like, you really, if one of you two, right, they both were full time in the business. It's not like one was a doctor or one was a lawyer and it was impossible. There was a way to get one of them to real estate professional status. And I said, hey,
Mm,
I'm not your tax advisor. I'm just dumb old me doing cost seg, but you could one of the two of you could become real estate professional, and then it'll offset your business, right? You already
Yeah.
have, it's not like you got to go buy in real estate. You already have these 5 properties that are millions of dollars. It's just sitting there in a piggy
Yeah.
bank for you to smash open and just like not pay taxes for the next 5, 10 years.
Wow.
So that's something that's
So you
powerful.
so
Like,
you
yeah,
have to be the professional status in order to offset a separate business income,
any
basically.
income, any active income from either spouse would be offset.
Wow. See,
Hmm.
that's amazing because we were doing fix and flip the last few years and, had a lot of active income that we had to bonus depreciate. So I got my first cost seg done, I think last year, some random company. I don't even
Hmm.
remember who did it. Um, but yeah, we got that done and it offset a lot of the active income that year,
Hmm.
which I was very surprised with. So I think again, there's
Now
just
you're
so many
addicted.
benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna be talking in the next couple months because we bought 6 parks this year, so we need to do
Nice.
some cost eggs.
All
So
right.
we'll do a few of them for sure.
Awesome.
So yeah, the cost eggs, it's definitely helped. It's just there's so many benefits. I think for the cost, um, the benefits outweigh the cons.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's not even close.
If
I
it
think
didn't, I would
every
tell you. If it didn't, I would tell you that it doesn't make sense. I mean, I've
yeah,
had people send me, $40,000 condos, and I'll walk them through why it doesn't make sense.
yeah,
And we do free estimates up front, and we'll get on a Zoom call, I'll share my screen and show you kind of dollar for dollar what you're saving, strategize with you, make sure that everything makes sense. But
yeah,
especially now with 100% bonus depreciation, it's like
yeah,
it's so common. It's such a no-brainer I mean, we do $300,000 single family homes and it makes sense with 100% bonus.
wow,
And on that topic, a way around, just for whoever's listening, that's not buying a mobile home park. That's, maybe full time and can't tap into the real estate professional status. There is, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, but I'll repeat it anyways because this has changed a lot of people's lives too, is the short-term rental loophole where you can buy an
hmm,
Airbnb and manage it and fulfill all those requirements and use that to offset active income, right? So it's basically it's like a matching game. Normally, you can't offset your active, right, with if you're not a real estate professional, but if you have a short-term rental, which is commercial property, you become active in that commercial property because you're
mm,
essentially running a hotel, right? So now your
yeah,
active can offset your active. You're matching up, and now you're a doctor, your wife's a lawyer, whatever it is, you're both full
wow,
time and it can't get real estate professional status. It's impossible. You go out and buy, I just did. I went out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, like 3 weeks ago, to do a cost seg study out there.
yeah.
The lady, she insisted I come see it, and I was like, all right, I guess I have to come,
It's an expensive
So,
area.
yes, it is. Yeah, it was $500 for the cheapest hotel out there for one night.
Yeah,
Um, so I went out there and did a cost seg study I don't even know what she paid for the land. I know the construction cost was over $15 million on a single family house,
yeah.
overlooking the Teton Mountains.
That
But
doesn't surprise me.
the client is a attorney, right? And because it's going to be a short-term rental, can offset active income, right? And it's
Wow,
being placed in service now in 2025, 100% bonus. It's going to be almost $4 million in bonus depreciation, which is like,
wow.
let's just say she makes $1 million a year. That's the next 4 years tax free for buying one.
That's
I mean,
incredible.
it's not a small property and it's not easy to pull that off and get financing
Yeah,
from the bank to do that construction, but she was able to do it. And now you can have
yeah.
4 or 5 years, no taxes on the $1 million you're making.
But the average person out there, they turn their garage or a carriage house or ADU unit into an Airbnb, run it as a business,
Hmm.
still have their high income business, and then basically uh, offset their taxes with that, and they can
Yep.
bonus depreciate the Airbnb essentially.
Yep. Yep. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
created all this buzz. I mean, it was a combination of that and COVID, you know, a
Yeah.
few years ago that like the Airbnb market went like buck wild, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
it slowed down a
And
little
I'm here
bit.
in Phoenix,
Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
Airbnb market here is, I mean, there's tons of Airbnbs.
Yeah. I've done a lot in Scottsdale, Phoenix area.
Yeah. It's definitely softened.
Yeah, it's often, but you
But
got to be, if you're a good operator, you know where to be. Certain
yeah.
markets are good and certain are oversaturated. And
Yeah.
to me, I'm not an expert, but I like to stay at a lot of Airbnbs with my family. It's just like something that I'm always curious. And when I'm looking to book something, I'm looking for the funkiest, weirdest thing out there.
Yeah.
Like I want something that will be like, oh, you remember when we went to Scottsdale and stayed in that place with a slide in our bedroom, or, there was
Yeah.
like a 250-foot water slide in the backyard, or, had a golf simulator or whatnot. Like those things are,
Yeah.
what make the Airbnbs really stand out. And, from my clients, the ones who are really good are still doing well. The ones that just
Yeah.
like kind of bought a place and, that's where I see the struggle right now.
Yeah. No, definitely the niche Airbnbs do the best. I mean, those outperform all
Hmm.
the basic ones out there. So that's amazing. But yeah, I've transferred out of the Airbnb single family game and just focused on parks. And I think for anybody out there that's thinking about investing in mobile home parks, I think the cost seg is probably one of the best benefits being an investor, like offsetting that passive income. Because think about it, if you have 500 grand, you could stick that into a Vanguard and make 4%. Or if you have 500 grand, you could stick that into a deal and make cash flow on that, which who knows how, I mean, that could be 8 to 10 to 12% plus equity. And you can write off that income, that cash flow that you receive as a passive loss. It's essentially risk free. I mean, you're kicking the can down the road, but if you're looking for short term and you're looking for cash flow quick, I mean, that's the easiest game plan for that.
Totally.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, and
Wouldn't you?
I
You would
totally
agree?
agree. And you're in the right space, as you probably know, for cost seg. We didn't really talk about this a lot, but um, it's one of the best asset classes to invest in if you want accelerated depreciation, right? Just as a quick
Mm,
number, if you bought a multifamily property, you're looking at about somewhere between 20, maybe 35 on the high end of your property can be accelerated, right? So you have 10 million less than 2 million in land, take 800,000, about 25% of that can be taken in the first year, right? You
right.
buy a mobile home park, it's not crazy to see 70 to 90% of the property can be accelerated because there's a lot of land improvements, the roads, the pads, the landscaping, some of the
Right.
infrastructure, fences, all that kind of stuff. So there's not a lot of building component to a mobile home park, which means it's heavy in the land improvement bucket. And then the mobile homes themselves, if they're movable, if they're not set on foundation, can be classified as personal property. So your
Wow.
numbers could be 3 to 4x many other types of, let's say self-storage. I was having a conversation with someone about self-storage
Yeah.
today. Self-storage can be great, if you're in self-storage, nothing against you, but in terms of cost seg, it's over here and mobile home parks are over here. Just because
Really.
self-storage is basically a structure, right? It's a building, it's all building, right? You may have some roads or whatever, but it's pretty
Yeah.
much a building which can't be accelerated. So when you're buying a, self-storage facility, you're paying for building, right? When you're
Yeah.
buying a mobile home park, there is many times no building component to it. So self-storage could be 10 or 15% acceleration. Mobile home parks could be 70 to 90%. So it's like
Wow.
way, way like worlds apart.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's another reason why I like MH. But because I've looked at all the asset classes and, I didn't even know that, but that totally makes sense. And again, it just proves why MH I think is the best asset class out there. So, yeah,
Yeah.
So you can basically,
The first cost seg I did on a mobile home park, I almost fell out of my chair. I mean, this is going back a
wow.
bunch of years ago, but someone sent me a deal. I hadn't seen a mobile home park. I was, focusing on some other stuff. I saw the numbers and I'm like, this can't be right. Let me call up our CPA. And he's like, yeah, it's right. And I'm like, wow, like this is
Yeah.
insane. Like dollar for dollar, if you're investing in a multifamily deal, you're going to get 3 to 4x the tax benefit in the first year on a mobile home park. Like that's
Yeah.
stupid crazy, you know?
That's amazing. Yeah. See, I love the cost seg strategy because I even this year, and I'm glad we're talking right now because it's kind of tax time. We're all wrapping up 2024.
It's
And,
always tax time, baby.
oh yeah, always tax time. Obviously, we do the extension because we got like 8 different LLCs, so we gotta mix and match all that. But I got 2 of those cost segs done, I believe in 23, and I mean we still have bonus depreciation left over from those years.
Yeah, 23 was 60%.
Yeah,
sorry,
so
80%.
80%.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I did a cost seg on a $1.2 million deal, 33 units in Montgomery, and then a duplex that I have in Washington, which was 500,000. So basically bonus depreciated 1.7, and it's been great. I love the cost seg strategy. It's a really good feeling when your tax person says, "Yeah, you don't owe any taxes this year." They're like,
you sleep good that night, right?
They're like, "Yeah, you got plenty of bonus depreciation. Yeah, you don't owe any taxes this year." It's a great thing.
Nothing
And we're
better.
using the tax code. The tax code is given to us, and I think it's so valuable when people actually know the tax code because we're playing by the rules, but we're using it to our full advantage and taking advantage of these, So I love that.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, you are the expert in cost segs. So if anybody out there wants to get in touch with you and get a cost seg, how should they do that?
There aren't too many Eden Markowitzes in the world. That's number one. And I don't think there's any other Eden Markowitz doing cost segs. So it should be pretty easy to find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, eMarkowitz at madisonspecs.com. You can find me. I mean, if you try hard enough, you'll find me. LinkedIn and Facebook, a lot of people reach out just from content and podcasts and stuff like that. So you'll find me if you look me up on either of those and just send me a message and I'll get back with you.
All right. Everybody reach out to Eden. He's the cost seg expert. So, dude, thanks so much for coming on. I think you brought a ton of value and people will really get a lot out of this episode. And I'm definitely going to have to listen to it a few more times.
You can call
to
me
make
anytime,
sure I'm prepared.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate
You got it.
And
Great.
This is the end of the episode. We'll see you guys in the next one.